Happy Cinco de Mayo, guys. Anybody gonna go get margaritas after this, or at least some tacos or something, celebrate? I just got off a phone with the client and he said that he had some fancy tequila he was gonna break out tonight, and so gotta celebrate.
Woo! That's right. Cinco de Mayo, baby.
It is. So no judgment here. And if you can sip tequila just on the rocks, that's damn impressive. Damn impressive. So, okay, guys. Well, we're going to start this meeting just like we start every single one. We like to start our meetings with wins. And so if anybody wants to speak up and, unmute, tell us the good news. We like to celebrate small wins, big wins, all of them. Anybody?
I've got a win. There's a gentleman that's usually here, plumber I work with named Roger Patterson. And he's not here today. Because he just got married.
Oh, how exciting!
So he's in his mid-50s and found the love of his life. And they had the wedding on a kind of like this live link, and I was able to watch it. And so, yeah, he's not here, but I still love celebrating client wins in their business as well as their personal life. So
that's a huge milestone. Love that for Roger. He's such a kind man.
He's great.
All right. I see a few more people jumping on here. If you're able to, jump on the camera, we'd love to be able to see you. If you're out in the field, we completely understand.
I think I don't mean to call folks out, but this guy, JT iPhone 11, who's sitting on a balcony right now, that dude looks like he is winning. He is like, he's got like a stogie and maybe like a beer, just hopping on the Redmond Growth group call. JT, bro, unmute your mic and tell us how you're winning, man.
So,
not all of us are doing that at 4 o'clock on a Thursday, bro. So you figured something out that I haven't figured out.
It was a good day today. I mean, we had good calls. We made money today, and the last call was like a half a mile from the house. So,
booyah!
Yeah, those are good days.
That. And correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of your calls have started to be pretty close to your house, and you guys have been able to be a little bit pickier about the type of calls you're taking these days.
Yes. So, when we first started with you guys, like we were going anywhere, to make money. And, since we've been with you guys, like we're really honed in on our area right here. And I hardly ever drive more than 10 miles.
Love that. Spend more times with the kids and the wife.
Well, or fishing.
I won't tell Stephanie, don't worry. Well, thanks so much for sharing, guys.
Oh, I'm here, Nicole, and trust me, I know all about the fishing.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm in the car picking up one of the kids from after school tutoring, so I'm listening. But yeah, the fishing has definitely taken over.
Oh,
I love it. No secrets here. No secrets here. You guys are awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing. We love celebrating the wins here, guys. What I want to go over is what is on the agenda for today. We're going to have a teaching moment. We're going to be talking about how to train your team and really hold them accountable through what we call KPIs, key performance indicators. Then we're going to have an applicable skill, how to run great meetings. Not many of us become business owners because we're super passionate about, public speaking and running a team. And so we're going to talk about what's the best way to do that. And then we're going to have a time to really talk about what is our next step, what action do we need to take. And then after that, we're going to open it up to you guys for a Q&A session. It can be questions about what we covered today, questions in general. This was an opportunity to not just get feedback from us, but get feedback from, you know, other clients as well, people who are in your industry or a similar one who have been where you are. This is one of our clients, V. Colbert. His name's Jason. He's the guy in the middle. I've been working with him for probably a year and a half, going on 2 years now. And why I put his photo here is because this guy is a huge testimony to the power of systems in training a team. I tried to get him on the call here today, but he's on vacation. So that kind of testifies to the power of training your team, you know, what that can do for you. Through using Google Docs, through his, you know, training of certain key team members, he's been able to go on vacations. He has certain days dedicated towards working on the business instead of running around grabbing materials and working in it. We're still not where he, you know, wants to be, but we're heads and tails from where he was when he was working in the field, you know, time. And so these are kind of some of that's an example of what can happen if you really commit to really training your team. I'm going to kind of go into what that looks like. Before I do that, who here remembers hiring their first employee? Can I get a show of hands?
Harley. We hired Harley.
Were you
Hey, that's
scared?
me.
Person we hired.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Anybody, you know, show of hands if you, okay. Fabio, could you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like? Was it scary? Were you excited? Were you like super nervous to kind of hand over your baby in a way? You know, what was that experience like?
Wasn't that difficult, but he was a really good friend of mine. He didn't listen that much, but I was without option, you know, and no option to pay extra for someone to take over, you know.
Yeah.
But he's no longer with me, so I passed that already, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's very common. You know, we start with a friend, a family member, you know, somebody who we know to bring on. It's a little bit scary. They might not be the most coachable individual in the whole world. And so what I want to focus on here today is how to have accountability and really implement training through what we call KPIs, which is key performance indicators. This is a really good quote by Dave Curlin. He said, good salespeople are not born, they are trained. And I would even go so far to say that good employees are not born, they are trained. Now, that does not mean that everybody should work out well on your team. Has anybody had a nightmare employee before? Just somebody who's just been kind of a nightmare. Tim, do you want to talk about it a little bit of you know, what are some of the highlights of what that was like with this nightmare employee?
So you know, like really two nightmare employees. So one stealing from me, you know, using the company vehicle, you know, I ended up having to put cameras in the trucks, you know, just, I mean, anything that you could think of bad, you know, it was really bad. And that's just from, you know, somebody coming along and, you know, you need a job. Great. All right, let's go to work. You know,
right.
So that's definitely not the way to do it. That's for sure.
And so not everybody, you know, if somebody's going to steal from you, there's probably a good chance that person's never going to be a good employee for anybody. So this quote doesn't mean that like everybody that you hire should be, you know, a wonderful employee. We do want to be somewhat picky. However, what we found kind of at Redmond Growth is that a lot of times, I have clients saying like, oh, he's a really good guy, or he, you know, has a good work ethic. He tries really hard, but I'm just having a really hard time, you know, getting him to work at the speed that I do, or getting him to see things the way that I see them, being on a job site and being able to tell what needs to happen. I'm just not sure if it's going to work out. This is where this quote comes in, is where nobody's going to have the same work ethic as you. That's why they're an employee and you're an entrepreneur. There's a difference in that mindset. And there's a few things that we can do to really help, equip them with the tools that they need to succeed. What does that, look like in practice? This can look like a lot of different things. The good news is if you're here, you have a coach who can really help you on what's going to be the best way to train your team. That can look like this KPI sheet here, where we're tracking each individual technician's revenue that they're bringing in each week, how many jobs they're going out on, how many they're completing, what their average ticket is, their monthly totals, so that you're able to see where are they struggling, where are they, having a hard time closing, or maybe they're estimating too low. Maybe they're not moving quick enough. By having something like this, you're able to really invest into that employee, because they might end up being a great employee. They just need a little bit of attention and time invested into them. It can look like something as this, a service call checklist. I went through this in detail with Gabe's Electrical the other week, because he's getting ready to hire on his first full-time tech. An outline of what should they be doing, every single step. Make it simple. How many of you are going throughout your day and it's really easy to forget the little things? I know I do. I have to have a to-do list, a checklist. Otherwise, I get so wrapped up in what's going on, I forget. Your technicians are going to do the same thing. And so the simpler, better. Office workflow. Maybe it's your first time hiring a receptionist, having somebody in the office. They aren't going to just get in there and know what to do. Having a daily checklist for them that they can follow. Same thing with a project manager. And the most important, and you can reference to some of our previous meetings that we've gone over what this looks like, but having weekly team training, sitting down with your techs, going over their numbers, going over any burning fires, answering questions. This is a 1 hour a week that you can really invest back into your employees. And ultimately, it's going to taking away that hour from being out in the field is going to give you so much more money than that hour in the field ever would. So these are just a few little things that you can do. Don't try doing it all at once. Work with your coach, see what's going to be the best way to move forward. These are all tools that can really, tangibly and practically help you when it comes to training your team. This quote really hit home for me. Exceptional leaders are fearless in setting expectations in a clear language. If we do not set expectations with our employees, we cannot expect them to rise to the occasion. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to you. It's not going to happen. And when we set clear language, it doesn't mean just telling them what it is that they need to do. If you tell them and it's still not happening, it could mean that they don't understand. They need an outline. They need more training. They're not confident in it. But once you have set clear expectations and given them the tools they need to rise to those expectations, that's when you can really start holding them accountable. And if they're still having problems, maybe they aren't the best fit. But that's your job as a leader to really set those clear expectations. Visual examples, outlines to follow, ongoing training and feedback. These are all great tools to really make sure that you are getting the most out of your employees. And it's going to keep longevity with your employees too, because they see you investing back into, into them. And that's going to make them want to be there. I see we have quite a few people on this call. Has anybody here potentially used a service call checklist? Have you started doing the team training, weekly? Anybody here? Coaches, don't feel afraid to call people out if you know of anybody.
Well,
Oh, shoot.
Rudy, go
I
for
went
it.
first. Whoops.
By
Hey,
the way,
I'm gonna brag on.
Nadeem raised his hand. Nadeem
Okay.
raised his hand.
I was gonna brag on Nadeem. So you
Okay.
go ahead, Nadeem. I want to hear you.
All good, dudes. Yeah, so I've struggled really. I just like to try to go as fast as possible and make everyone go as fast as possible. And then I realized like we suck into the future. So recently implemented, actually Mondays are a half day of installing now for us. So this is our third week of doing it. And so we do inventory, we talk, we have a team meeting. I call it a bitch session. Sorry for my language. Tell me everything on your mind. And then we pick 2 training topics. We review KPIs, and then we talk about how the week's going to look and what our goals are.
That is phenomenal. That is textbook. Have
I'm
you
not
noticed?
good at it. That's just what I do. That's what we're starting. So I'll get there.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, I was offended by that comment, but no, just joking.
Oh, man. Okay, we
Nice,
are
Daryl.
sorry.
I told them to call it that. So
By the way, just real quick, and I actually have to hop on a laser call here, so I got to bounce out. But I don't want to undermine or devalue what Nadeem had just said about his bitch session. Is essentially all that is checking in on your team and creating a space where you're saying, hey, what's going good for you, and what are you struggling with? Just no consequence. I'll hear you out, just openly. And I believe that can work well for your business in a number of different ways. Number one, it uncovers issues before they become major issues. Number two, you win more trust and loyalty from your team. Why? Because they feel like they can go to you with problems that they have. They feel like they can you can help them create a plan to overcome maybe some of those challenges. Number three is a lot of times, unless your team member just totally checked out, a lot of times your team and whatever individual responsibilities they may have, they can have a better handle of what's going on than sometimes you can as the owner. Just meaning that they're in the thing, doing the thing all day. And so all I mean to say with that is they might have some valuable insight that you haven't thought of. Something my dad says that I love. I just love this, because as a business owner, as a manager, sometimes we feel that all the pressure's on us to solve everything. Is he says, all of us are smarter than one of us. And my dad, Tim Redmond, an executive, has scaled dozens of companies, built his own multi-million-dollar company, and all his wisdom goes to our team and says, guys, what are we doing that's stupid? He asks our entire team that at different times. And so I think that bitch session, although it's kind of funny, I actually really love that, Nadeem.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to hand things over to Harley here, and he's going to lead us through how to kind of put this in practice with leading a team meeting.
Yeah, that's correct. So with all these different systems that Nicole talked about, managing KPIs, managing numbers with your team members, making sure checklists are actually done, coming up with new checklists. Everyone's already very busy in this room, busy business owners. So how do we make sure that we can actually implement this stuff throughout the team and make sure it's happening consistently? It's through running a team meeting. And I made sure to have this guy on the call here with me, but I'm pretty sure Brent Pasusta is here from Minnesota, correct? Get unmute. There we go.
Present.
Yes, there he is. All right. So he's my all-star tile and flooring guy up in Minnesota. And I wanted to make sure to bring this guy on because after much consideration and frustration about running team meetings, this guy finally decided to do it. He figured it out. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Brent, I could have sworn you told me one time that you couldn't imagine not having these team meetings anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's where all the best ideas come from, and it's the only way for me to know what's going on in the company thoroughly with everybody present in the room at the same time, knowing that it's a scheduled meeting.
Yeah. Now tell me, when I introduced this topic, there were some objections to wanting to do this. What were some of the hesitations or difficulties that came up in your mind about wanting to get this started?
I think the first thing was we'd have to have one of the members come in earlier than normal start time. And I was fearful of just asking that simple question of disrupting a very ongoing schedule and asking for that to start sooner. Just not even wanting to go there, not wanting that conflict or conversation.
Because you feared they might leave, or what?
Yeah, that there would be some kickback on it, and then therefore the meetings wouldn't be as happy or they wouldn't be as pleasant.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so I remember that being a problem, and I think we came up with a creative solution where when are your meeting times, Brent?
7:30.
7:30 Mondays, right? And so what did you start doing in order to help get people to be happier coming into these meetings?
Yeah, happier and present. Provide breakfast.
Right.
People love food. People love free food.
Not just college students or teenagers. It's everyone. We're just all big teenagers.
And so another thing too is like we're covering topics about KPIs, jobs going on before and after. I know after a couple of these, you were like, oh my gosh, I didn't expect these things to happen. What were some of the things you found out after starting the weekly team meetings where you're like, man, this is awesome?
Really letting the staff know that we're all equals in these meetings. So there's no seniority. I'll lead the meetings, but I try to let everyone know that they're just as involved in these meetings as I am, or that their opinions matter. Everybody gets into everybody's business. And, just like here with how you guys do the Redmond Growth Zoom meetings here, we always start with a win. And our wins, we always try to keep it personal orientated. So it's not a win within the company, it's a win outside of the company. So we go around the circle. There's 8 of us, to give you an example, and we just go around the room and everyone has to come up with something positive that happened, usually over the weekend, and it's outside of work. And that's helping with the family orientated business that we really strive to have here. So the question was, rephrase it again, Harley. You were getting at.
Yeah, so what good things have happened as a result of you having these weekly team meetings and just keeping them consistent?
There we go. Thank you. Having us all in the same room at one exact time and discuss all the matters that go on. At any given time, we have 3 projects going on at one time. So when I have a group of installers on one particular job, the second project, and the third project, when we talk about, we always start with a win, and then we start with old business, and we discuss everything old business is last week. So with these meetings happening weekly, old business is only 1 week old. So we talk about everything that happened last week. What did we get done? What could have we done better? Any tips or tricks that maybe someone figured out on those jobs? And by one installer talking about what did he do on a project, we all learn from it. So we don't have to wait for the next person to go through the mistake, experience a mistake. So that's what we learn from that. And by someone else talking about a situation, we're all learning, even though we weren't there. And then we move on to new business. And when we start talking about new business, this is where we get to set the goals for the week. And everybody hears what the goals are for the week. If one crew gets ahead of schedule, the other crew already knows, or I should say if one crew gets behind schedule, the other crew knows that's what they're working on. Maybe we need to go help them get caught up. And if we don't talk as a team, no one's prepared to do that. So that's been really enlightening. And all these conversations having as a team, and I can't express enough, I've never felt more like a team before, by putting us all in the same room at the same time in a relaxed environment while we're all enjoying a breakfast of our choice. Because I ask everybody, the week before, what do you want to eat next week? And I get it. Those are a lot of the learning moments that just, sometimes you don't even know what you're going to learn until you just start talking.
Man, Brent, I love that you've been available to answer some of these questions. If you have any helpful feedback with any of the business owners that are just getting into this, please feel free to share. What's one nugget or a piece of advice for a business owner that's just trying to get this going?
Well, the simple answer is you have to do it. Just do it. Any head trash that you've got going on where you're trying to talk yourself out of it, you got to go for it. You just got to start somewhere. And it's just assembling your group at one given time where everybody knows it's going to happen, and just start out simple. Conduct it from old business to new business and keep it as simple as that, and keep it positive, and encourage your staff to open up, and encourage your staff to feel as an equal, that even the new guy can chime in and add any type of feedback. Because so there's the guys that are just being quiet and they're observing everything, and they have something to say. And until you give them sometimes permission to voice on a topic that they may not feel they have any business speaking towards, it'll surprise you what they may come up with. So
Well,
just do it.
Just do it. That's right. The Nike slogan, just do it. And,
Right.
I liked the particular detail you mentioned there, Brent, where you said, just find a way to get it started. And I know for us, we were able to figure out the weekly meetings, but I know I've been in a lot of these, a lot of meetings with business owners where they're trying to come up with like, okay, how do we get everyone in the same room together? Because there's some people that have like 12 people or 20 people. What? And then they're all in different directions. They got their service trucks in their own places. How I can't even confound this. And so that's for any business owner that's thinking that way, that's part of the work of working with your coach to figure out a unique solution for you. But just like Brent said, you can definitely get this to be a part of your business because you can't afford not to. And so what I want to cover today is some of the best practice steps for running a great meeting. I'll give you a framework of how a hypothetical business would run this team meeting, and you can make it even simpler than how I'm going to illustrate it. The point is just getting started and figuring it out. So where does this? We've got these processes here for a great meeting. It actually comes from a guy named Gino Wickman, where he came up with this concept of a level 10 meeting. And I believe that was talked about in a book he wrote called Traction. It was a very popular book that got him to be a big name in the business world. But essentially, these level 10 meetings, why it has this phrase is because he did research with a bunch of executives and CEOs that he surveyed and found out that the average business owner and executive rated the quality of their meetings as a 4 out of 10. Which I don't know about you, but that sucks. And that might be however most of us here think about meetings, where, I was talking with, Daryl chimed in earlier. We were talking about this topic this week, and he was saying how he hates meetings because you linger on so many topics that have no reason for being talked about in this meeting. And then you get caught off guard and you end up the meeting not doing everything you want to do, and it just doesn't feel effective. And so the goal of this structure that we're about to present to you here is to help turn your 4 out of 10 meetings into 10 out of 10, which that's exciting. That's an A+ right there. And what Gino Wickman talks about is that this 10 out of 10 meeting, it's not only just a good meeting, it's an effective time management tool. And so we'll go through the structure, but he has 5 rules that he asks for us to adhere to with each of these meetings. First of all, it's got to be on the same day. So this is probably the biggest hiccup I see from business owners, and I know the coaches will attest to this, but the biggest hiccup is that we set a time for the meeting and we get started. Oh, we're excited. We want to do it. But then a job takes too long. 1 or 2 guys don't show up. It's raining. I don't know. Some excuse comes up and we say, can't do it this week. Let's try another day. And then no other day comes and we come back and 3 weeks have gone by, 7 years have gone by. We haven't had a weekly meeting. So make it the same day and make it the same time as well. And this, again, we're human beings. So business owners, we got to understand that employees are not the get after it kind of people that we are, because we're business owners. You started a company. I mean, and it's successful enough to still be here. So that is proof enough that you've got some consistency and wherewithal to make these kind of meetings. But these employees need to be wrung into this habit. So if you got to get them breakfast, if you got to adjust their schedules to make it work, if you just got to, hey, come on, you got to be intense with it. Same day, same time, every week, you can make it happen if you really want it to. But then you also have to have the same agenda. And I'm about to show you an example of an agenda you follow, but just like a plan for the meeting. What are the objectives? I mean, you guys have been on these group calls. Every group call, we have an objective, a list of what we're going to talk about. And you want to do that with your meetings. But then you start it on time, end it on time, because you guys are business owners and you're busy, and your employees, you want them to actually work for what they're supposed to be paid for. So you start and end it on time. But these 5 rules here are going to be helpful for the structure that I'm about to talk about, which the way I'm going to do this, I am going to bring over can you see this agenda here? Yeah, okay. So my name's Harley. So I thought I would hypothetically make a team meeting agenda for Harley Davidson if I were to own one of these in the future. That'd be pretty cool. Gotta be honest.
There's always hope.
But this would be an example of a team meeting agenda that you could ask your coach for a copy for if you don't have something like this. But I just want to go through each of these sections and what some of the topics would look like for your company. And you've made a mention to this, Brent, and also some of the others here, but you got to start off with wins. Has anyone started off a conversation where it's really awkward and negative? Yes, I have. And then how does the rest of the conversation go? Not well. So you start off with wins, and sometimes you got to pull it out of people. I mean, I can imagine with Brent talking about, he goes around the circle with 8 people. Brent, do you sometimes have to pull wins out of people just because it's not natural for them?
Oh, 100%. I'll get, well, I survived the weekend. Great. That's excellent.
Wow.
Along the way. Like, yeah, all right. Anything. Then I hype it up and I get positive for them that you made it through the weekend. That's excellent.
Yeah. And so, you got, and don't be afraid of doing the personal wins, business owners, because we could look at this first win. Let me zoom this up here for the week of eyes. We can start with business wins where it's like, hey, first of all, Kevin, he sold 6 new motorcycles this week. That's a personal record for him. Round of applause. And like literally train your people to get applauding, do fist bumps, something, physical gesture for celebration. And it's going to be awkward the first couple times, but when they find out you're never going to stop, they're just going to buy into it. But you have business wins, but then you also have personal wins. Shelly rescued a new puppy. Wow, that is so cute. And you could share photos on the screen, whatever. It helps everyone get close and become a team, just like Brent talked about, which is probably the biggest issue that most companies have, is they're not willing to invest the time to make a team, because a team sticks together when they're a good team that stays and communicating. Wouldn't it be crazy if all your employees actually liked hanging out with each other? That would be nuts. But wins, it should be only 5 minutes. Don't want to drag it out. Then you go on to burning fires. Okay, what are the hot issues? And this would be urgent issues that have come up. This could be clearing up company bad habits. Like you're seeing something happen multiple times this past week, and you're like, okay, hold on a sec. We got to nip this in the bud today. So go over that. And then any random employee questions about what's to come this week, something that happened. I mean, we talked about how these meetings could be bitch sessions, having a bitch moment there that just speak publicly about. But an important thing that you want to remember is that with these burning fires, you want to address these fires after going the other important stuff you wanted to talk about. Because I don't know, some of you can relate, but I know that there's been conversations or at least meetings that we've had internally where, just to be honest and transparent, where, we've started off on a burning fire that came up and we ask clarifying questions, and then it goes into this random topic and then this random topic. And then like 20, 30 minutes later, we're finally done talking about this one thing. And we have no time to cover any of this other stuff in that meeting. So you take note of what these burning fires are and say, hey, we're going to cover these before the end of the meeting. As the business owner or the team leader, I got important things to make sure to cover. So I see people commenting. I'm not seeing if there are questions, but
I've got, if there aren't questions, it's people wanting this document. And so I told them to text or email your coach. We'll make a copy of this for your company specifically, and we'll either send it to you or put it on your agenda. And so just reach out to whoever your coach is and we'll get it to you.
Awesome. Okay, let's keep blazing along. Next, we got KPIs and tracking. All of those just lovely documents that Nicole showed you about earlier in this presentation. This is your time to make sure your team is actually doing the stuff. And so with a KPI spreadsheet, you want to go over, and with any of these team meetings, you want to go over the important numbers that you need to make reported in the business. Example of these would be total sales over that week. How many motorcycles did we sell? Or how many repairs did we do on motorcycles? Total units sold, number of customers or leads that came in, the closing percentage for these people. And, with installers, how many jobs did we complete? Did we stay on schedule with these jobs? Did jobs take too long that they shouldn't have taken too long? And so dedicating the time to figure out these numbers or just keeping tabs on them every day. We've talked about the importance of tracking in these group calls. This is what helps make sure to even inspire questions or issues in these team meetings. So if in these team meetings, like if you're running a plumbing crew with 4 trucks and you got Gary, who's an absolute all-star, but then Fred, Urkel, and Larry, I don't know where these names come from. Sorry. Fred, Urkel, Larry are not selling as well as Gary, then that is your time to ask what happened during these team meetings. Why were you not able to close as much as you were? Why are your ticket totals not as high as these other guys? And it might be a little embarrassing, or maybe like, I don't want to air out my issues in front of the whole team. But as Brent talked about, the whole team talks about issues and things they find out together so that everyone mutually improves and gets better. And so it's just faster learning for everybody. Daryl, I think you raised your hand for a question. Is that right?
Yeah, if it's a question or not. I mean, I don't know if most guys here are running their business, like where they're having these meetings in person or not. We have to run ours remotely because we have people all around the country, and it's not, we don't always have an opportunity to do it. And one of the tools that we're finding right now is that, like with the Teams app, you can record the meeting, you can assign to-dos on there. There's a whole task master process in it. And even if our meeting in person, it's helpful. And one of the suggestions we got from our meeting was, instead of like having this bitch session or needs thing, is to have people submit questions the night before to kind of cut that out. So, those can kind of drift. You can kind of grow on a tangent and just submit any issues that you got that need to be addressed at the next meeting. So just wanted to share.
Yeah, that's very good, Daryl. Appreciate another one of my clients, applause there. But that is good feedback, because if you're training your people to proactively think of the issues and questions ahead of time in the meeting, then that lets you as the team lead or the business owner be aware of, like, you can take a peek beforehand and be like, oh, they want to ask about that question. Okay, maybe I should look into this, or, I wonder, you could at least be prepared instead of talking off the cuff with people and their problems. So that's great. You want to review KPIs and tracking. And then through KPIs and tracking, you want to assign issues and action items. So based on the information you hear in the team meeting and how the numbers look and what the issues are, what are the team members going to specifically do by next meeting to improve the business by 2%? That's all that we're looking for. We're not looking to fly to the moon and back in a week. We're looking to just find a small area to improve how they're doing in 2%. I'll spit off some examples. For an electrician, if an electrician is needing to sell better and needing to sell higher ticket totals, well, then they should probably work on their service call checklist and rehearse that. And then be time to train with a lead on doing a good job executing that service call checklist. Or maybe you've got an installer for flooring where he's trying to learn a new skill in order to get upgraded to another pay grade. Well, in that time, figure out when you should schedule that next time for training, or what responsibilities should they have in the next job in order to get closer to that trade. This is your time where, like, every week, and every week you're going to have the same action items from the last week. So this is a great follow-up time to be like, hey, Kenny, you were struggling with selling upsells. Did you look at the service call checklist, and did you use that more in your calls? Yeah, I did, but I had this customer and this customer that were giving me issues with it, and so I fumbled around. Okay, that's fine. Then let's make sure, let's go ahead and rehearse it together here. Let's just go through these points, because I want to make sure you leave this meeting knowing exactly how to do this service call checklist. That, I don't know about you guys, that's a great meeting right there. Super productive.
Yeah,
so
one comment I want to make. What do we all know about action items? And everyone should know this. When we assign you an action item on your agenda, how does it look? There's a due date, who's doing it, and the action. And so when you're giving back feedback, if you're needing, to Larry to follow up on the Jane Doe job, whatever it is, We want to make it, you know, when does he need to do it by, the name, and a clear action. So the next time you have this meeting, you're able to follow up with them.
Yeah.
Another
A great
thing
way to remember this or think about it too is who's going to do what by when. 3 W's.
Yep.
Who's going to do what by when.
Yeah, I know Tim and Stephanie with my plumber here on the call, and they've asked me before, you know, what happens if, you know, we just need to meet, you know, Stephanie is the one running the office. He's the one kind of out in the field managing the guys. You don't just need to have a team meeting, you know, apply this to your point people. If you have a project manager, if you have, you know, a bookkeeper, somebody in your office, you know, have that set time each week to answer questions, give feedback, go over burning fires, assign action items. Some of these meetings might happen every day instead of once a week, but just getting that ball going, you know, just getting it rolling and starting the process is key.
So the final thing you could do in these team meetings is a topic of the week, where you might have some big topic you want to make sure is talked about for everyone to benefit from. And it could be something about work, like showing up on time. Just talk about that publicly. Can we all commit to showing up on time? Come on, guys. You know this is important. You'll do a better job by doing this. You'll get paid more by doing this. So let's show up on time. It can be work related, or it can be personally related, like save your finances. I remember for over 2 years at our offices, we had team meetings every week where the guy leading it, without a shadow of a doubt, would talk about the importance of saving your finances. And it might sound weird because it has nothing to do with the work, but it's actually quite important, because if someone is proactively saving their finances, they're probably proactively doing other things better too. And they're just a more calm and stable employee that can be relied upon. So you can do personal or work things, but yes, like Nicole said, if anybody is needing a copy of this or like a draft of this, get it from your coach. But then also I would suggest you schedule a 20-minute to work on it with your coach to make sure it's a structure that makes sense for your guys' company. And if you have all these hidden questions about, well, what about this or what about this, you can work that out with your coach and make this something that definitely can happen. But do it now. So do it now time. I have 3 things that you can do at this very moment to help start these team meetings. Request a copy of the team meeting agenda. I've hammered that home many times. So schedule your first team meeting and make it a recurring event. So business owners, if you've never done this before, you're trying to give this a whirl, get in that calendar right now. Find that time when you think it makes sense. And you might have questions like, what's the best time? I mean, a lot of people, at least in my experience, have been like beginning of week to set up the next week. But really, it's whatever makes sense to you guys. I've had people do it in the middle of the week. I've had people do it on Friday to end the week. It's just, you're just building the habit. So that's what matters the most.
I would add to that too. Our team meetings happen in the very middle of the day. We do it at 11 o'clock. That's an odd time. And most of you in meeting with us, your coach has limited time. And so we have meetings at random spots throughout the day for you, but it's just in line with our meetings. So really it comes down to setting that time and then honoring that time. Wherever it is, just set it and do it.
And then get all the team members to attend. And if via Zoom, if you must, if people are remote or across the country, get them all together. Because as Brent said, this is your best way to keep them as a great team together and really loyally growing together in their skills and in working together. And just as a final note, I mean, you could definitely implement team meetings. So I feel like we've really leaned into that. So that's how you do it. The KPIs and the accountability are so important that Nicole talked about. And I'm just adding to it with icing on the cake, where the best way to make sure that they happen is via team meetings. So we got a few minutes here at the end. I know Daryl has a question. I wonder if anybody else has hot questions about doing team meetings, KPIs, or any random problem in the business.
Yeah, Daryl, I saw your question on the chat of thoughts on rewarding employees for reading certain books, available training, team training videos. Absolutely. We do it at Redmond Growth. I have clients that do it. The main key thing here, you don't necessarily have to, reward them. It can just be kind of part of the job, but just make it to where it's small bites. So what we do here at Redmond Growth is we assign a chapter a week, and then maybe it's Friday or Monday. Typically it's on Fridays. We review that chapter as a team. And so we have the ongoing accountability. If you just hand an employee a book and say, read it, it's not going to happen. And so same with training videos, you have to assign it in bite sizes, and then make sure you have that ongoing accountability and you kind of do it together.
Yeah, there's it's an app, I think it's called Loom, and it's great for creating your own team training videos that you can share across, with anybody. And it's kind of nice. That's one of the things we're starting to implement there. And Harley, I got to say, whenever someone says I'm being honest, I ask them, were you not being honest with me, Harley? Up to this point, can I believe what you said? I mean, I'm joking, obviously.
No, I know you're screwing around. You screw around.
The reward part on it, you can do a lot of different stuff, whether it's mindset things, you guys, we're all business owners, and you got employees that are there for a page. You're trying to stimulate those guys that are just want to be there for a paycheck, right? That you want them to be in. And if you give me 1 minute, Harley, I apologize, but I talk about the FedEx type employee. I don't know if you know the story, but FedEx, there was a driver. He went out to go pick up a package from a box, and the key broke off in the box, so he couldn't open the box. So this driver went down to the hardware store, bought a set of tools, unbolted the box from the concrete, put it in the truck, took it back to the warehouse so it could be opened, and the package would be delivered on time. Those are the kind of people that we try to hire. We try to, bring those kind of people in. And sometimes people don't always start off as a FedEx person, but you can work with them to get them to be kind of that FedEx type employee.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. With Nicole mentioned with JT is there's a lot of guys that are just definitely not going to be good fits, and you want to figure those people out real quick and get them out. But if they at least show up, they're consistent, and they have a good character, it's worth working with them to see if they really do gel the skills and really do just apply the different action items you talk about in your weekly team meetings or in your training with them. So unless there's anything else, any other questions here? Anyone else want to chime in with a question?
You can either type in the chat, unmute. If you don't feel like we've got enough time, feel free to email or text your coach, book a laser coaching call. But we do have about 5 minutes here if anybody has any questions before we all go drink our margaritas for Cinco de Mayo. Nope, going once, going twice. Sold. Okay. Well, guys, I'm gonna have Jonathan Rude close us out here, but before I do that, we're gonna do it. We're gonna every single time, so just get used to it. I need everybody to unmute. I know I can see the rolling of eyes, guys. I know.
I don't see anybody rolling their eyes. I'm excited for this. We're all gonna say growth on 3, so I'm gonna count down 1, 2, 3. We say growth. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Growth.
You guys have a great week.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. Woo!
Oh, I picked the wrong song for this.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.